Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is CF Claire, and once again, I have forgotten to film an intro clip. So, if you don't know what's been going on, I am in the middle of revising the first draft of my small town shifter romance novel, and this is about that process. As I'm going through the spring in New England and building a greenhouse and checking out all the plants waking up and all this stuff. So, if that sounds fun, I think it is too. I'm going to pass it back to me from sometime last month. What's up, guys? I finally got my microphone figured out. It took 5 months. It's fine. And we're trying this clip again because I clipped it to my sweater and apparently I like move my shoulders a lot. So it was like, you like that sound, don't you? And no, I don't like that sound. Here we are again. Anyways, it's May 1st. We're about to start working on the next chapter. So let's talk a little bit about that. So I use the 8 sequence method, like a variation of the 8 sequence method for outlining. And I really love that because it breaks everything down into like much more manageable chunks instead of like, oh no, I'm in the third quarter, which is my least favorite quarter of the book. I think it's so difficult. Instead of saying that, I'm like, oh, I'm on my like 5th sequence. There's only 4 chapters in that. And I know that it needs to end in like a climax. That's what we're working on. In my last vlog, I was talking about like how I was fleshing out those chapters. But I want to give an example of the difference between what I initially came up with and then when I sit down to flesh out how that would play out, like how drastically things are changing. So let's just preface this by saying, like, I am what I would consider a methodological plotter, which is a term that I heard first from Ellen Brock. I'm pretty sure she came up with it. I'll link a video in the description to like where she talks about the different writer types she works with, but she is a novel editor and she makes a lot of like writing content on YouTube and she's great. Anyways, a methodological plotter basically is someone who really prefers to do a lot of pre-writing, like do a lot of outlining, and that's me. Hi. So that's the preface. So I find it really difficult to go from like thinking of the things I want to change and then writing it and then going back and thinking of what I want to change in the next chapter and then writing it. So like I prefer to look at the whole book. What am I changing? Get a plan for all the developmental changes that I'm going to be making. Write out summaries of the scenes, like do all this stuff. So what I've done so far is I've done an outline for like all of the scenes that are changing, which is a lot of them because I changed a lot of elements from the first draft. It's going to be a lot better. I'm like super excited about it, but there's a ton of stuff changing. So the second draft when I write it is like going to essentially be like a first draft because it's so different. But the reason that I'm really liking this, like having all the scenes I know I want in the book, assigning them to the chapters that I think they will be in and the point of view that I think will those chapters will be in, and then taking that and like further fleshing out like, okay, if this is the summary of the scene, like how is it set up? What are like some bullet points about that? Like what's the tone? What are some things that need to happen within that scene? And as I'm doing that, like so much of the book is becoming clearer to me and a lot of things that I had like, I think this is gonna happen. Like, here's a scene that's probably gonna happen, like around here. It's becoming more like, ooh, this is exciting. It's gonna be this scene with this person, and this is where we meet them, and this is where we learn this. It's also helping address some problems that would come up during the writing if I wasn't like doing this. It's helping me catch some things that I sort of like put as placeholders, and I was like, I think this is like good enough for this iteration of the draft. And as I'm going through, I'm like, no, let's do that a little bit different. The midpoint, for instance, this is sort of an enemies to lovers romance. It's from the protagonist's perspective. It's definitely enemies to lovers. From the love interest perspective, it's like acquaintances to lovers. Like he's not enemies with her, but she is definitely enemies with him. So one of the things we need to do at the midpoint is like get that switch where she stops thinking of him as the enemy completely and starts being like, oh, actually, And so we need to have that. And I was initially going to have that be because he like kisses her, right? Like midpoint, first kiss, pretty classic spot for it. But they're so not there in their relationship at the midpoint that it was gonna need to be like, oh, he was so jealous or something, like, and then like things escalated, whatever, like, and then they kissed. But I don't love that. I don't love that, and as I was thinking, like, what would make him so jealous that he would, like, become almost another character in order to do this? And I'm like, "He just wouldn't do that." So, instead, I think what works a lot better, the female protagonist being the one who, like, pushes forward a little bit and is like, "What if we did do a little bit of, like, intimacy?" So, less so on the physical intimacy and more so on the, like, she's wanted to be seen for so long and to be able to like be vulnerable with someone and be able to trust them in order to do that. And for a moment, like she gets that and she's like, she's never seen him in that way before. And that's like very attractive to her, like very appealing. So I think I like that a lot more. And if I had just left it at what I had come up with for the scene, like maybe I would have just fixed it in the third draft, like who knows. But I think this is just a lot better. So I'm enjoying, you know, getting a lot more excited about scenes as I'm going through and fleshing them out. At the moment, we're about to start the fifth sequence. There's 4 chapters in the fifth sequence, and a lot's going to change in this next chapter coming up because I just changed like the previous scene, how that was going. So I'm going to drink some coffee now and take a look at that. I slept last night, but not very much. We had a thunderstorm and it was just loud and windy, and I was just like, oh my god, laying in bed in the middle of the night being like, is this wind going to destroy my pea trellis? Like, don't. It was fine. We've got about like 7 more days of rain forecasted, and we're like in this brief sunny period, so that's fun. So we're gonna actually go work out in the greenhouse and write in there and sort of go back and forth in time blocks of like write for 25 minutes and then plant out a tray of seedlings, write for 25 minutes, blah, blah, blah. It's May 5th, it's raining, and I'm a little frustrated because I took bad notes apparently. And I thought from my notes that I had finished halfway through fleshing out the 6th sequence. So I was really excited because then that would mean that I do have enough time that I think I could finish the whole thing. And I didn't. I didn't start the 6th sequence yet. So I don't have enough time. So I'm going to look at the 6th sequence and I guess we'll just do what we can this week.
Oh, look at this.
Oh my goodness.
How many is it? 1, 2, 3.
So actually we got a really good amount of arugula. So I want to go back out and get the other 2 kinds of lettuce that I have out there. It's fib and red sails. I've seen a bunch of people do like spring recipes where they like do herbs blended up with arugula as like a sauce. I'm like, Can we do that? We only have thyme and oregano as far as herbs go, but like that would be pretty fun. And sorrel. Actually, we need to do like a sorrel salad dressing, so we'll do that later today. But I am fully aware that I'm like, this is how I lose time in the morning when I try to do this kind of thing, because it's like you should start with a task block and then flex off into something else instead of like start with something that could easily take much longer than you thought it would. But I'm also hungry. So I was like, oh, all right, well, you know, sometimes you can't be as productive as you would like to be, but like overall, like you could be fed. I made my notes for those 4 chapters of Sequence 6. It helps so much. When I sat down to look at what I had done for Sequence 6, I was like, it's not very good. But after I added in all the notes of like what else needs to happen within those scenes, I was like, okay, no, this is going to be good. This is going to be good. So there's that. There's only 4 chapters. It's so crazy how much changes between the beginning of a sequence and the end of a sequence. So like definitely I think there's going to be more chapters that get added in after. So I don't know what the word count's going to end up being, but it's good. It's good because so much has to happen. So it's a much better problem than what I feel like I've always had in the past before I found out about 8 sequence method, where it's just like, I don't know what happens in the whole middle of the story. Like, what? It's like, okay, no, like looking at the change, this needs to happen. And then at some point in not too long, like they need to be all the way over here. So, like, how do we get from here to there? Oh, okay. I am going crazy here. Today is one of those days where you're like, I'm being tested and I don't know why, and I didn't sign up for this. And if I win, like, I didn't even want it to begin with. It's not, I guess it's not that dramatic, but it's very annoying. It feels like every single thing that I've been trying to do this morning, which is not like weird, unusual stuff, it's like the one thing I need is the only thing that's missing at that time. And then it's not where it's supposed to be. How have we got an hour into the day where I'm just like, where are things that I'm trying to get? Like, what is happening? So I'm giving up. I don't care if I'm being tested. I'm giving up. I'm needing to do the actual like difficult brain work of like figuring out this stuff, and I don't want to. But god damn it, like that is the one thing I will do today. I swear to God. So we're gonna go do that. We're feeling great. Look what I found in the basement on top of the washing machine by the door to go outside, the basement door. I knew I brought them inside. I knew that I did, but I had no memory going in the basement door. It's too little too late. I'm still not doing it. And now I'm in like spiteful self-care mode. Do you know what I mean? I'm only doing things that are for me, that are good. So my family doesn't care about like having bread for BLTs. Like, I mean, it would be nice, right? Like that's nice, but that's really more a me thing. I prefer it that way. Everyone else is just like happy to eat it out of the pan. So like, what am I doing? I feel like I haven't written in my office in so long. My office, it's a corner of the bedroom with curtains, whatever. We're taking our notes. We typed them up on here, and now we're taking like the scenes that we already did and making sure that they fit all of the notes that I have on what should be happening and what the chapter needs to accomplish. And like a lot of times the scenes that I have don't do a good enough job and I need to actually really rework them. So that requires like a lot of thinking. So that's what we're doing right now. We've got 3 chapters to do before the end of the 6th sequence. So we're going to try to do 1 chapter now. I will say though, like how thrilling for you guys that you get to see me being annoyed. What a treat. It's been like an hour. I did 2 time blocks and I fleshed out 2 chapters, which means there's only 1 chapter left in the 6th sequence, and that's going to be where the climax of this sequence happens. It's at that 75% mark where the truth comes out in a terrible way, as it inevitably had to. am excited about it. That's fun. So I'm so excited to be at this point. At this point, it feels like all the way up to now feels like it's been like the beginning of the story, even though it's been 75% of the story. So I'm really excited. We're getting close to the end. That's awesome. I think I can finish this later today. We have a grape plant and a pear tree that are supposed to be delivered sometime today that we need to plant. That will be really cool. There are some other like flower seeds I want to sow outside. And very excitingly, I made all my notes for the last sequence. It's the end of the book. And so I need to type those up and make all of my like fleshing that out. And then I'll just be like done with the outline. Oh my God. Like very detailed outline. And that is so exciting. But there are some problems. So, okay. I'm going to try explaining this again because I did not do a good job. In my like research about story structure and how you do a climax and like how would I take that and apply it to romance, because a lot of these things don't feel necessarily like they fit romance as a genre because romance is so specific. And I really like when Hayes is romancing the beats. And so she has like the grand gesture, and that's like, yes, obviously, like romance, you need the grand gesture. But I think there is something to like the elements of how it's played out, that borrowing some of those things from like more classical story structure makes sense. So usually in the climax you have like the climactic sequence of events. And I'll put it on the screen because I can't remember all of them off the top of my head. But one of them, the one that I think is missing from my outline, is the surprise. Oh my God, sorry. Everything's going everywhere. And I think that's really necessary. I think we need the surprise. In terms of like my particular story, this story, I think what needs to happen is like love interest has his realization about what he's done and like what he needs to do to make things right. And so then, yes, he did the grand gesture, but it allowed her the space to like come to him and be like, hey, I see what you did. Here are these other things that are still going on with me. And then they can have a resolution between them about that. I don't know. Does that, maybe that just like sounds crazy. It's hard to like really visualize, but I think that surprise element of the climactic sequence needs to happen. Otherwise it's just like, oh, it's done. And that doesn't feel genuine to how like deep this wound is. So we're going to think more about that. It's actually such a beautiful day that I'm going to take my son to a playground, and this stage of like what I'm doing, I could easily do like sitting in a park. That actually sounds really nice. We were there for probably about an hour, something like that. So I think I did about 45 minutes of work, and that went really well. It was really, really nice out. However, when we left, I packed up the backpack and put all my stuff away. We got to the car, I buckled my son in, and then I was like, oh, let me get my phone out of my backpack and we'll listen to music on the way home because that's what we like to do. I'm looking through my backpack and there's no phone here. Like, there is no phone. Okay. Check my fanny pack because I don't like purses. I wear a fanny pack. And there's no phone in there. Like, okay, well, maybe I'll like put it down when I got my son in the car and I put it in a weird spot. So I'm like all around the car. Like, it is not there. So we got out of the car and we went and we walked all the places we had gone to in the playground. This phone, this is crazy. And it's got like a black case on it. It's really hard to see, you know, like in the woods. It's not like, oh, lime green, here I am, lost. Which is a problem. And it's also not locked because I don't lock my phone because I never go anywhere. And it's just like annoying if you're home, you have to unlock your phone 50 million times. But I was not home. I had gone to the park. And so I was like, is my phone out here? Did someone in the 10 minutes that it took to get my son buckled in the car and like figure out I was losing my phone, did someone like find it and take it and like have all of my information and like oh my god. And there had been like no one at the playground when we left. 10 minutes later when we went back to like look for where it might be, there was suddenly like 15 people. It's like, could have been any one of you. But there was one clear suspect because there was a guy wearing sunglasses and he was texting on a phone that had a black case, not unlike mine. And I was like, there's no way that this guy found a phone and then like started texting on it like at the place that he would have found. Like, there's no way, right? Like, no one would do that. No one would be so stupid to do that. And I was like looking around, like it can't be. Like, no one would do that. So like it's got to be somewhere else. We look around for like 10 more minutes. I don't see it, and my son is like, maybe it's just like at the car. And I'm like, oh god, I don't know, maybe, maybe. And but before we go back up, I was like, okay, if I go up to the car and I look again and it's not there, which there's no way it's there, I am going to come back down here and I'm going to find that guy and I'm going to be like, hey, sorry, I know this is like a little crazy and rude. Sorry. But there's no way that that's my phone, right? Because that's like not me. I would never do that. But it's also like, if that's my phone, that's my phone. Anyways, went back up to the car. Guess what was in my backpack? Listen, who thought that it was a good idea to make backpacks where they're like, oh, it's like a regular backpack, but like also, do you want this like extra little pouch to like, I don't know, put your laptop in here or something like protected? I never purposefully use those. My phone was inside of it and an alarm was going off because I had set an alarm being like, oh, like by this time we should probably leave the playground. So thank God I didn't just go up to that guy and be like, is that my phone? It was put a little bit of a damper on the whole thing. I need to get like sticky neon stickers for my phone though, because this is not the first time that I've lost my phone. I will never again get a black case. Let's say that. Anyways, it was a great time. Could have done without the ending. Speaking of endings though, I'm really liking the way that I'm fleshing this out. I think adding that surprise element really helps. Really helps. I've had in the past like a lot of trouble. I mean, for many reasons in many places of the story, but like I have always had trouble with the ending, even when I know what I want to happen, being like, but it's so short. And there are a lot of reasons why it makes more sense for the last like 25% of the book to actually like be 25% of the book, because there's so much character change that happens there. And a lot of times there's a lot of plot things that happen. In romance, arguably much harder to have relevant, interesting, engaging plot. But there is a lot of character arc change that needs to happen. And personally, I find a lot of like the last 25% of romance books to be very flat because it is so hard to make it interesting and engaging because plot is really not necessarily like supported by romance. Romance is really more about like the beats between characters. And so, I mean, I think it's hard to do well. I really do. Whereas something like fantasy, like you've usually got like a lot of plot stuff to work with and be like, oh, like this plot thing has to happen, this plot thing has to happen. Not so all the time, especially I would say in like contemporary romance where like usually there's not like that much plot going on, right? And even though this is like a shifter romance, it is contemporary. Like there's not magic, right? It's sort of like people living their lives. The stakes are regular people stakes. It's not like saving the world. It's like, this is my identity that's at stake, you know, this is my way that I'm thinking of myself and my interactions with others, how others perceive me, like that's what's at risk. And that is still like very relevant to these characters. It's high stakes for them, but it's not like, oh, like the, you know, the bad guy. We have to defeat the bad guy. Like there's no big final battle. It really is that like battling yourself and choosing to do the hard thing, choosing to let go of the misbelief or the lie that you have a good reason for holding on to that is providing you with something. And you have to make the choice to let that go and face the fear of like, oh, there is something else. There's a new truth. I can't hold on to that anymore. It's just impossible now. Anyway, so the surprise element of her being like, that's great, but like, I don't fucking care because all of these things that helps so much to propel more character change. And I really like that. I like the way it's shaping up. I think it's going to be a lot better. And I think it also is going to get the main character to make a couple of decisions that will have a larger impact on the rest of the series, because there's going to be 4 other books for the 4 other like friends in the friend group. And I think it helps set up why this particular small town is a good hub for all of that to happen, because I want it to happen in this small town. It's like really cute. There's a lot of fun reoccurring characters, but I have like struggled with why would it just happen in this small town? Like why? They're from like wildly different backgrounds, but I think this choice he's going to make because of the surprise is good, and I think that will support that. So it's all fun. It's all fun. And I'm going to keep working on it. We just picked up our food order, so we need to put that away. But it's raining again. So I want to do some house cleaning today. We have Dungeons and Dragons tomorrow. People are coming to our house. And then there's Mother's Day the day after that. So I'll definitely want it clean for that. And we're going to do some painting with my son this morning. I'm going to try to cut out this wooden shield template that I drew a couple days ago. We went to a Renaissance fair earlier in the week, and he wanted a kid-sized shield so bad. He's got a wooden sword from the last Renaissance fair, and they just didn't have any. So I was like, I don't know. I mean, like, we can try to make one. So we're going to do that too. And I only have 1 chapter left to fully like flesh out for Project Chance, and I'm so excited. I have so many notes on it already, so I think it won't be too bad to do. So, oh my God, like I'm gonna be done. That's very exciting. We did it. I did it. You guys were along for the ride. I'm done. I'm done. There is like a big part of how much I fleshed out this outline that is kind of like I pre-wrote draft 2. And obviously there's like a lot more to be done. Like in the actual writing, the prose of it will be draft 2. So like this is not draft 2 obviously, but it's so much of it is pre-written that I'm just like so relieved. I'm so relieved. I'm such a stinker. I'm such a stinker when it comes to like the early drafts and getting words onto the page. Like, oh my God, this is gonna be so huge for me to have this. So I'm not in the moment being like, oh my God, how do we do this thing that I wrote vaguely? Which is what I did for the first draft. And that was like very difficult. Or what I've done in every other project, which is like not really know where it's going, but have like a really solid idea of the first 25,000 words of the story, and then be like, oh, let's give up on this because I don't know what else happens. So I'm so excited, guys. Let's look at a little bit of some stats. So according to my Kanban, my goals, I totally failed. I totally failed. But that's fine. You know what? It's fine. I had been hoping, let me read it word for word. Make a revision plan for draft 2 of Project Chance in 66 task blocks, 55 task blocks, or the best possible 44 task blocks. How many task blocks do you think it took? If your guess was 106, you would be correct. So that works out to be like about 44 hours of like making this revision plan and getting it down to this stage. because we're working on like 25-minute task blocks, and I'm not counting them as like 30-minute increments with like a 5-minute break because that's not how I did it. And I'm also not counting them as like, oh, it was like 25 minutes of like uninterrupted, like just me as the only person who could like procrastinate myself. It's like, no, this is just, it's literally 25-minute chunks. Sometimes hanging out with my kids, interrupted very often. So you know what? I think that's rad. I think that's rad as hell. So I'm very proud. I am hoping that is the most number of task blocks it ever takes. Because honestly, after doing all of this stuff, I think the next actual first draft that I write is gonna be a lot more solid. So when it comes to second draft, really just like developmental changes, like hopefully, please God, it will not be quite so drastic because of all the stuff that I'm fucking learning here. So anyways, if you are curious, almost half of that time, 56 out of the 106 task blocks that it took was fleshing out the outline. So the other ones were like figuring out what I want to do, getting the rough cut of the scenes, like all the stuff you saw in the first 2 revision vlogs. So I feel totally guilt-free letting this project rest for like at least a couple of days. Now, ideally, I had hoped to be at this stage, like done with revisions, about 3 weeks ago. In like week 3 or 4 of Q2. And this is the end of week 6. So that's unfortunate. So I'm hoping to like back off of kind of like all of the writing for at least like 4 or 5 days. You know, like it's Friday right now. We've got the weekend where I'm trying like not to work really that much anyways, unless I'm like, ooh, I really want to do like this thing that would be like really fun. I want to. And it's gonna be like Mother's Day, so then on Monday I'm gonna try, weather permitting, to go to my dad's house and my dad and my stepmom's house and like do some tree cutting, orchard like preparation, whatever stuff. And then maybe around Tuesday, the 13th of May, maybe like do a once over of the fleshed out outline, just be like, is there any like glaring thing that I want to tweak last minute? And then maybe in like week 8 of the quarter, which is what, like the week of May 19th, maybe like aim to start writing then. Maybe just like fiddle around with some outlining things for my B project. I'm like a little intimidated, not intimidated, but I'm just like, I definitely need a couple days of rest. Because I'm like, let's take a look. All the pink stuff, like that's a lot of pink stuff. And a lot of it is stuff that I think will only take like 2 task blocks. So like less than an hour, right? But who's to say? Who's to say? So there's like, and I'm also just like a little bit freaked out. Like, when I go and look at what I have for my B project, am I going to like it? And I think I will, but I'm also like, what if I don't? What if I'm doing a lot more of this kind of like outlining stuff? So anyways, we'll find out. But listen, I think I did like a good job, okay? So we will find out. But I hope everything's going well for you guys. I hope your writing's going well. I hope life's going well. I hope you're having a great spring, and I'll see you in the next one.